From the Ticats Audio Network, this is a Ticats This Week, built by Turkstra. Whatever your next home project is, build it better with Turkstra. Visit TurkstraLumber.com today.
Never a dull moment around the Tiger Cats. Third straight loss drops them to 2-8. Plenty of news this week, and we will get to all of that on Ticats This Week. I'm RJ Broadhead, and look at these beauties on Ticats This Week. We've got Rob Hitchcock, we've got Mike Daly, we've got Luke Tasker, so a great player's perspective on a lot of things going on. The big news, guys, is Mark Washington is out as defensive coordinator of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and Chris Jones is hired as senior defensive assistant. Does that still kind of mean defensive coordinator?
He's calling the shots.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's, once you're out of a job and come into a different team, I feel like they have to give you these unique titles in order, instead of just saying defensive coordinator, but he's definitely that.
Yeah, I agree.
Chris Jones has a resume. He's got 4 Grey Cups. He's got a long history with Scott Milanovich. They've known each other for about 20 years, coached together in Montreal, of course, won a Grey Cup when Scott was head coach in Toronto, and Chris Jones was defensive coordinator. The defense. Mike Daly, Rob Hitchcock, you guys played defense on the Tiger Cats. It's sort of been the heart and soul of the Ticats for a long time, and even the fans seem to build off it. Hitch, I know you did a lot of homework on the defensive side, and over the years, coming into this year, it's been an off year defensively. What's happened this year?
Well, we talked about it the other day. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what's going on. We talked about communication, maybe the breakdown in communication on the field. Maybe the players aren't just buying into the system this year. Mark Washington's a heck of a coach, a heck of a player when I played against him. And he's got these guys going every week, but it's just a point where you might need that new voice in the room. I don't mean to say that to disrespect Mark, because he's a heck of a coach, and Mike could attest to that because he played for him for a few years. But I think just getting that new voice in the room for the rest of the season, and just getting that, maybe some new schemes put in, maybe a little more pressure defense, just some different little aspects of the game. I always said to my guys when we played, and even when I was coaching, that the little things go a long way. The little things make you great, and the little things this year just haven't been going the right way for the Cats. So I think you're going to see a big change in their defense coming in the next couple of weeks.
Mike, as Hitch said, you played for Mark Washington. He's had some great success coaching defenses over the years. Maybe talk about your experience with Mark as a coach.
Yeah, I think Hitch nailed it right on the head there. Is when things aren't going well, a coaching change will always spark some energy, because I feel these players, when there's a new coach in town, it's almost like day one of training camp again, where you're trying to impress the new coach. You're trying to do everything correctly and give extra effort. And when you have a coach for a while, you get used to things, right? It's like a long relationship where all of a sudden you start taking things for granted, maybe a little bit too much. And now with the new coach in, there's going to be a lot of extra effort and attention to detail, like Hitch said. Just with Coach Washington, yeah, his defensive scheme required smart football players, to the point where you need a lot of experience under your belt to be able to work with the formation changes and all the nuances that came with, if 4 receivers are lined up on the strong side as opposed to 3 receivers lined up over there. A lot of things change, and that's the communication that Hitch talked about, and it's also the understanding of the CFL game. And I feel that's where it didn't work this year, was when you have a new set of players that you're trying to work out all the kinks with, a defensive coordinator that wants to teach the complexity of the game and understanding of the game. That's where it's, a square peg, round hole type deal. But Coach Washington, one of my favorite coaches to play for, just because he was so even keeled, and he was, the same guy every single day, whether it was a win or a loss. Real family man, and nice to be around. So it's unfortunate for me. It makes me sad, but like Hitch said, there's at some point, not even on Mark Washington's point, but there just needs to be a change up there to spark something on the defensive side.
Luke, I know Mark was a coach when you were on the Ticats. You were offense, obviously, and he was defense. But I've seen you guys interact, and there's definitely a mutual respect.
Yeah, I always respected Mark. I thought in 2019 when he came in and was coordinating for us with O as the head coach, I thought he did a spectacular job. That defense was full of some veterans and some big time players, and it was just worked that year. It's a crazy industry, football coaching. I mean, the best coaches get fired 15 times in their career, right? And that's just part of the nature of it. And when things start to get wrong, change is inevitable. It has to happen. And so this time around, it's Mark, and for all the good things he's done here, he'll be doing good things in another place as soon as he wants to. So. That's the kind of quality man and coach that he is. But we'll see. Hopefully, like Mike said, it's almost like a little bit of a spark or a little bit of boost in energy seems inevitable when a coaching change happens. And I can think back to when June came in halfway through the season, and Kent and June sort of shared offensive responsibilities there. There was even in sort of the strangeness of having different offenses mesh together. There was some energy that we got, and you get something new, and you can kind of start to try to be good at a different thing. And so we'll see. I think Chris Jones is probably a guy who'll be able to excite some energy pretty quick.
I have a quick Mark Washington story, and it's just the kind of guy he is. A year ago, my dad passed away. I was in the players' area of the locker room. Mark walked by, said, "Hey, RJ, how's it going?" I said, "Oh, it's okay." And he stopped, and he said, "Just okay? We're better than that here." And I said, "Well, my dad just passed away." He came over, gave me a hug, said, "Hey, it's time for the little rock to take over for the big rock. We got you." And how many times does somebody say, "Oh, I'm okay," and you're like, "Okay, great, see you later," and you keep going, But he read the situation really well, and you guys talked about his personality and the kind of guy he is, and that will stick with me forever. It definitely meant a lot. He probably doesn't even remember it, but it did make quite an impression on me. So let's get to Chris Jones. He has a reputation. He has success in the CFL with 4 Grey Cups. What makes him such a good defensive coach, Mike?
Well, I believe, and from playing against Chris Jones, as a defensive coordinator, he is one of the better ones. People are going to remember his GM time and the head coach time, and that's a lot of stuff on your plate near the end of his career there. But as a defensive coordinator, he was very good. What he does is simplifies the defense. It's funny to see, and Luke's played against him a ton of time in his type of defenses, and really it's a lot of what we talk about with the Noel Thorpe situation, where he's going to hide what he's playing, but you're only going to get certain coverages. You're only going to get 3 coverages all game long. And all he's going to do is he's going to make sure his guys understand exactly what they're supposed to do and play fast and play physical. And so it is quite the change when you talk about defensive coordinator styles, because Chris Jones, I'm curious to see what he puts in, but I'll be surprised if it's anything more than 3 coverages for this week against Winnipeg.
Luke, as an offensive player, could you tell trends with defensive coordinators when you played a team? Would they do certain things? And would you, as an offensive guy, get to know the opposition's defensive coordinator and his style?
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that, because a lot of times it's not the case. A lot of times you watch some film, you know a guy who you're going to be going up against maybe 50% of your plays, and you know their high percentage coverages or some field zones, with the exception of Chris Jones defenses. Like, Chris Jones was the guy who you definitely knew the coordinator. You definitely knew that there was some noticeable, characteristics that were sort of unchanging. And for a number of years, as we were prepping in the Ticat receiver room, it was like, if it's a Chris Jones week, it's just, you have to be ready for cover 0. Like, he would just be, for a while, he was just his pressure was just constant. He just loved throwing cover 0, even into times where other teams were, say a field zone where other teams were running cover 0 less than 10% or rarely ever. Chris Jones had a super high percentage of cover zeros there. So that was just part of the week of prep all the time. And that's not to say that that's him every week all the time, but it certainly was against us for a while. And I'll be excited to see some of that. It's almost always struck me as sort of a stubborn defense. Like they're going to do what they do, and you got to be ready for it.
Well, if I can add into that, I would never have been able to play for him because cover zero, I can't cover anybody. Listen though, if cover zero enabled me to blitz all the time, then 100% I'd fit in there. But if he's got me covering the inside slot, covering you, Luke, it would be like, Coach, just have me blitz, my friend, and just have a D lineman drop out and cover you.
Well, and Hitch, it's funny you say that because Luke, you probably remember this, but Chris Jones, Hitch, you might have been in the A gap in their cover zeros because the way Chris Jones acts, I remember him putting some DNs back in cover one as the deep safety. Like the positions don't matter to him at all.
That's what I said. That's what I remember about a couple times with him and seeing those, big D linemen, interior linemen dropping out 8 yards into the flat, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, but it works. It's all disguise, right? And I don't mind a 10-yard sprint at the center and hit him right in the chops as the ball snapped. I'll do that all day.
10 yards. So, guys, this sounds a bit complicated, the Chris Jones defenses. So 3 days of practice before the game in Winnipeg. I see you shaking your head, Mike. How much can he really implement here?
Well, yeah, and RJ, it's actually for the players. I believe he's going to make it extremely simple. Like I said, I believe it's going to be things like cover zero. Luke said probably a cover one and a cover three double cut because Luke, you know how much he loves showing cover zero, dropping into cover three double cut where the two corners are low and everybody's high over top because it's the perfect counterpunch to a cover zero. But RJ, I would be very surprised if it was anything more than that. I think what it's going to be is he's going to be talking in the meeting saying, listen, guys, we are looking for people that are going to run around and hit people and play fast and play hard. And I'm going to make this simple, and we're going to win a game by doing that. So I'm excited. Like Luke said, I'm excited to see what ends up rolling out here.
Some news from the Tiger Cats today. They did release Kenneth George Jr., who was in his second year and tied for the team lead in interceptions with Jamal Peters with 2. So we'll have to wait and see as Friday's the game. We'll get the depth charts on Thursday and get official confirmation on who's going to be in the half spot that Kenneth George Jr. was playing. But that a bit of a surprise, but Chris Jones maybe came in, has a plan. I know Scott Milanovich said that there's no gray area with Chris Jones. You know what he wants from you. Did you like that from a coach, Hitch?
Yeah, I did. I had one. Coach Don Southern, God rest him. He was the same sort of what he told you is what went. And if it didn't go, he always say, "There's the QEW right there. You'll be on that as quick as you came in." So. So I do respect that. There comes the old school coaches that we had back in the day where, we're punch you in the mouth, smack your mouth and go out and just hit somebody. And, the game's evolved. But again, getting back to the question, he's what he says is going to go. Guys are going to listen to it. It's that new voice in the room. Like Mike said, it's like your day one in training camp or week one into training camp this week. And guys will buy in quickly or they're not going to be around.
Do you feel there might be motivation? No takeaways for the Tiger Cats defense for a second straight game, and it's happened in 5 of their 10 games. So half of the games, no takeaways by the defense. They don't have a takeaway in the second half all season. Is this maybe a chance for some players to impress the coach, Luke, the new defensive, let's get it right, the senior defensive assistant?
DC.
Yeah, right. It could be. Certainly, guys want to impress. It's maybe sort of a fresh slate. I think there's probably the understanding that a new coach yeah, he's senior. He's going to watch the whole season of film. He knows he's going to get to know guys based on what's happened, but he's also got to make his own ideas or get his own impressions as to who he wants where. And so, yeah, it's a chance to impress a new coach. Still, each of those players has to, while they're getting into the new structure, and hopefully, like Mike sort of elaborated, hopefully that's somewhat simple or easy or accessible for, in just a short couple of days here. But even within each of those structures, you still got to have that ability to risk it when the time's right to go for that interception or to bring the hatchet in on a tackle and force the fumble. So there's part scheme and there's part just every player just executing to try to force the ball out.
It's been a year of change for the Tiger Cats over the last year. New head coach, new offensive coordinator, now new defensive coordinator, senior defensive assistant, but defensive coordinator. Are there better days ahead here for the Tiger Cats, Mike?
Oh, you'd start to hope so, right? With all the changes that are coming in place, it's trying to find the right people, and obviously Coach Milanovic didn't have a ton of time because he came in halfway through last season, so he had one off season. There's only so many people that are available, stuff like that. So I feel like he's trying to round out his staff now mid-season that he has to because of how the season's been going. But I do really believe we saw it with the special teams. Dennis McKnight came in, right, and there was a little bit of a spark with the special teams, and we all noticed it. Not that not anything crazy happened, a couple block punts, but there is that spark. So now hopefully you get a little bit on the defensive side. And you know what? Hitch brought up a good point. It's now going from, Mark was an awesome guy, a great man, nice person, to now what you would say was like an old school coach. And I'm hoping what this does now, RJ, is it speeds up how the starts are for the Ticats. Right? Because, and Hitch knows this, there's a lot that can be fixed when you're just going to decide to be much more physical than you have been in the past. And I'm really hoping that that's going to be the biggest thing for this Ticats team is to start fast on these games now instead of just waiting and waiting, and the next thing you know, it's out of hand.
Mike, you raise a great point. It's a problem for the Tiger Cats. You can't say it's fluke anymore. There's a pattern developing here. 4 turnovers in the last 4 games on their opening possession. So the last 4 games, they've turned the ball over on their opening offensive possession. And, of course, last week, you can't blame Luther Hakunavanu. He took that hard hit. We do have an update. He is doing okay. He was taken to hospital. He's released from hospital. Same with Taylor Powell. That was a lot quieter. He was taken to hospital after taking his hit, but he's okay. Neither one will play this week, so we do know that. But they are around the team, but will not play. But it still ends up being a turnover on the opening possession, and it's concerning, Luke, that's happened now 4 games in a row. They've turned the ball over on their opening possession and have been shut out in the opening quarter in 3 straight games.
It is concerning. One of those is a turnover on downs as well at Tim Hortons Field. So it's happening all sorts of strange ways: interceptions and interception, fumble, turnover on downs, fumble. Like you said, Luther's fumble was on a really, really crushing tackle, and we're thankful that he's on the mend now. But it's what a hurdle to just overcome to start every game. And we talk about in all of our broadcasts how impactful turnovers are. It's one of the most telling single statistics of a game is winning the turnover ratio, and it's that leading to victories, and it's just unbelievably hard. And so they have these just horrible first quarters, and then the plays that they are making are trying to battle back into it and trying to fix that problem. They've got to find a way to be able to keep the game 0-0. There's 60 minutes to play, and to keep that level playing field and try to battle from there instead of just getting down into a well. We talked about it, RJ. Those turnovers, that's the offensive side of the turnover ratio, like the bad side of it, meaning the giveaways, and then the takeaways on defense. And our talk about Chris Jones, hopefully that side's going to pick up too, because the Ticats last in the league in the turnover ratio, and it's a result of both sides of that ratio going poorly.
I have a solution
What is it? Let's hear it.
You know what? It's not bad actually.
All right.
I think I just thought to put some deep thought into this. You have your slot receiver. You do a quick kick on first down when you first have the first series. You have to do a quick kick. That'll take that all away.
Actually, that ends the first drive really quick. So good thought.
Receiver behind the kicker, and just have the quarterback kick it on first down and go get the ball. That'll take it all away, guys.
Yeah, see, now we didn't
You're
turn
the brains,
ball over.
That's perfect.
It's a turnover, but it's a punt.
Oh yeah,
They'll be deep.
playing the field position game, right? Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talked about those turnovers, Luke, and a couple of them. One was on the Edmonton 5, one was on the Edmonton 4. Those are sure points for the Tiger Cats, and they're turning the ball over in those areas. That's costly too. Actually, Edmonton did march one of those down the field for a touchdown, which wasn't good either. But it's going the wrong way on the turnovers, and I've said it before. My first meeting with Scott Milanovich, he said penalties and this is last year when he joined the team. We take too many penalties, we turn the ball over too much. So this must be driving him bananas, what's going on with the Tiger Cats right now. They took another 11 penalties last game, Mike.
Yeah, you're right. The two things that Coach Milanovich has talked about over and over and over again is the same reason that he sat Bo in the last game, right? And everyone's saying, hey, me myself, right? I was like, hey, Bo is playing out of his mind. But the turnovers are obviously killing the Ticats, and that's what they see internally. So, yeah, there was that change. But, I mean, right back to Bo now. And RJ, the penalties, that's one of those things where I believe a new coach can fix that as well, at least defensively now with Chris Jones coming in, because again, you're nervous for your jobs, right? You see somebody like a Kenneth George Jr. get released, and now you're on your P's and Q's. You know what I mean? You're worried about what's going on, what's around the corner. So those penalties, that is at this point, and because there's so many of the 15-yard amount, right? That's on the players at this point. That's on the players to smarten up and not be selfish, because those 15-yarders, those are selfish penalties. That's what those are, right? The holdings, those will be from playing hard and, maybe a block in the back and you're not really trying to. Like, that's discipline stuff. But the 15-yarders, that's on the players, and those are just outright selfish. And Hitch, I know when, I was playing, if somebody would take that, it was almost like a veteran leadership type thing to be, hey, we can't be doing this.
Yeah. And I don't see that happening. There's not a lot of guys going up to him after who gets the penalty, and there's not a lot of talking to him. Like, you're right, we would be in the guy's ear saying, "That's stupid, man. You can't do it again." Or we as players, we put a fine system in, and hey, it was lunch for the team, because it built up a little bit and guys started not doing it again. I'm not saying that's what to do, but we did it personally as guys, and we just fined them $100 every time he took a stupid penalty. And again, if it was a holding call or playing hard, of course not. But stupid face mask that you grab the guy in the front, or just something that you could take care of, or you could control it yourself. So we put a fine system in. We had a lot of money in the first half of the season for lunch, but after that it was good. So.
Well, after 11 penalties in back-to-back games, it'd be a pretty good party for the Ticats players if they had that system.
I agree.
Ticats have lost 3 in a row, Luke. They haven't had a lead in 2 straight games. Is that demoralizing as a player?
Well, it goes back to the first quarter troubles that they've had. And, you think back to Montreal and that the James Tuck fumble was followed up immediately by interception from Bo. So, our stat that we've been talking about, the first drive interceptions, there's more as you keep watching the first quarter. I don't. It's really just hard to outplay it. And we have to say too. The Ticats. They in Edmonton. That was probably their best performance of the season. Of course, you could balance that with the Toronto game, but they were dominant after in that second and third quarter there. Edmonton back in Hamilton just looked entirely different, and the physicality was from Edmonton was. I mean, it kind of jumped off the field as you watched the game. And so, the problems sort of are everywhere, and you kind of just got to start one at a time, sort of checking them off. But yeah, the lead, it's not one thing to play with the lead, and it's one thing to play behind, and the Ticats can actually make some hay when they've been behind. It's just, in my mind, it's about battling, getting out to that level or even start, and pulling ahead, as opposed to having to climb back at 3 touchdowns.
Well, and Luke, the other big thing too is that when you're a team that's in the hole that the Ticats are, standing wise, and seeing how the league's doing, as soon as you get down like that, whether it's a turnover or you're down 14 points, that starts eating away at the team. Because I remember when we were playing losing teams, you always hear the thing, keep losing teams losing. Well, that just put it in their mind that, here we go again, right? Here we go again. We're back into being down and having to battle back, and that's a mental thing. So that's a big reason for, I bet, some of these losses is that they have to battle back against not only the stuff that's going on in the field, but now being like, oh, is this going to happen again, right? And bounce out of that.
And that last game, when I look back at it, that little, I think the ball that was thrown on the 5 and was intercepted on the 5-yard line. Again, we already said that could have been a touchdown there. And then the short kick, they kicked it to the right side where everyone was on the left. They tried it. The guy just picked it up and ran it down to the 4. Like, those are a couple of plays. If you look back on the time of that, like with 9 minutes to go, I think we were down 16. There's a heck of a lot of time. I've seen 21. You guys have seen 21 points score in 4 minutes, in 3 minutes. So they were still in it until those just a couple little mishaps that happened. And it's finding ways to lose, as we talked about on the panel the other day. And it's hopefully we're going to get a different look this week and a whole different view and everything. The guys are going to be ready to go because Winnipeg's going to be ready.
Yeah, Winnipeg walked into BC and spoiled Nathan Rourke's return to the CFL, so that's a big win for Winnipeg. Just so Hitch, you and Mike know, Luke put a stop on me in a commercial break. Tiger Cats were within 3 touchdowns. They'd need 3 2-point conversions. I said, hey, we're a 3-possession game. Luke just looks at me and says, don't say that.
Mathematically 3 points, yes, but emotionally.
I'm just trying to be nice.
Yeah,
exactly. Glass half full. Hey, we're closing the gap. We're getting closer here.
Yeah.
You talked about Bo, Mike. Harrison Frost, Scott Milanovich talked to us after the game and said he just wanted to get him some reps. Went 8 for 12, 95 yards, threw a touchdown. Looked pretty good. I'd be surprised if Bo doesn't get the start. We know Taylor Powell won't play, so I'd be surprised if Bo doesn't get the start. But did Harrison Frost's performance give Scott Milanovich a little more confidence that he can throw Frost in if things aren't going well?
This is a safe space here, RJ, for us. Yeah, safe space.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. No.
Oh yeah.
No, not at all. It's gonna be Bo Levi because, and this is the thing, right? When those quarterbacks get in at the end of the game, the defense is playing off and soft, and it's, hey, let's get out of this game. How much time's left? 6 minutes. Okay, keep them in front, keep them in bounds. Let's get out of this game. So it looks good for a quarterback to get out there, and he'll put some completions together, and it'll look like the offense is rolling. But the defense is allowing that to happen too. The defense is saying, hey, we're going to keep this in front of us. So he did look good, and it's good to get your third-string quarterback some reps and some real-life game reps because it will help him down the road, similar to the situation like the Davis Alexander. I'm sure he got some reps while he was Montreal's third-string quarterback for a while. But yeah, it's not really that close because as soon as he were to have to start a game, the defenses will be much different. It'll just have a bunch of different looks thrown his way. So it's going to be Bo Levi's show, and he's going to have to fight through the getting benched and having the turnover conversation over and over and over again. But him and Milanovich are going to have to figure out a nice common ground to put a couple wins together because, it's Bo. He's the one that's going to have to lead them to a few wins down the stretch here.
My only thought there is, because I do agree with you, Mike, but I think Milanovic has had it up to here with turnovers, and like I think he'll have the. I think he would do anything to stop turnovers or to correct the ratio. And so if Bo doesn't have success protecting the football, I even with Powell, who's not going to be in the lineup this week, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a change if turnovers are the problem. I think it's Bo's team to lead, and it's his offense to run, but I just sense that the turnovers are we talked about it. It was a year ago when he came in and started and that was the problem he wanted to attack, Scott Milanovic. He wanted to fix the turnovers. It's been a year, and I think he would do anything to make a change there. So if that continues to be a problem, I don't know.
I also think, just to add on to that, what do they call him? Bo 300? Is that what we're calling him? Bo 300 for the yards. He's been in the league for such a long time. He's been an impact player in this league. He's won Grey Cups. You just look at, I think for me as a player, a former player, and then watching the game as a fan now, you would think that after being in the league this long, that those turnovers they would be talked to about the coach. The coach would be talking to the players about, hey, you know what? Instead of trying to force that ball in down the middle with a safety and a guy coming over the top, because that's what I see. I see a lot of trying to force it, and hey, 7 times out of 10 he's making that guy receiver's making the catch, but I just feel that he's just a bit step late, and then getting rid of the ball, and then that's how these interceptions are happening. Like, he's not a runner. We know that, but pull the ball down on the 5-yard line the other day instead of throwing it and getting that little interception. You could have ran 3 yards and slid. So it's easy for us to say as fans when we watch the game, because we all know how quick the game is. But I think the decision making and trying to force the ball upfield, he takes care of that, guys, and they'll be fine. I mean, I know it's easy to say, but just trying to force that ball in has really been struggling for him this year.
So think about the last Montreal game when Bo got pulled out of the game. It started with a James Tuck fumble. So like the hardship kind of wasn't a Bo thing to start.
Yep.
They actually moved the ball down the field for a few plays, got called back with penalties. So it's still not really a Bo thing. And then the final straw was that throw across the middle. And then Scott Milanovic is saying, I got to change. I'm going to change something right now. Okay, Bo leaves the game. Taylor does pretty well. Taylor goes down at home, and Bo, he threw that. There was 6 wide. Greg Bell left the backfield and ran a seam up the left side of the offense, and Bo threw the perfect ball. Greg Bell almost falls down, which, by the way, how many times have you seen a running back catch a seam route and pretty much and fall down or almost fall down? I don't know what that is, but it happens almost every time a running back is on a seam route. Almost falls down. Turnowski trying to set up a block. They get tangled up, whatever. And then that's followed up immediately by the interception that bounces off Greg Bell's arms. So it's like you could paint the picture, and certainly Bo should do this in his own mind. Like you can kind of paint the picture, like, yes, I've made a couple mistakes, but just 1 or 2 things here, and it looks very, very different. And some of my mistakes, first of all, wouldn't happen. We saw multiple interceptions off of wide receivers' hands this year. Yep. So first of all, a lot of those just don't even. It's not even Bo's fault. And even a couple little things going right around Bo's game would have changed some things. So, you're right. Hitch, I mean, if you isolate the worst 5% of Bo Levi Mitchell plays this year and remove them, it's like the greatest season of all time, like of a Ticat quarterback. It's crazy. Yeah. But that 5% makes a massive difference on the outcome of games. So
well, and Luke, you said it perfectly, where it's getting put on Bo as it is, right? Because you're the starting quarterback, but
you just carry that.
Yeah, so you carry that, but you're right. It's almost like a frustration with Coach Milanovic saying, "Hey, like we need to fix something. What can we do?" Well, Taylor Powell is playing pretty well, but going back to Hitch's point where he's forcing the ball in downfield, we have to remember that's been Bo. That has always been Bo. When I was playing against Bo, that was the scouting report. Hey, if he sees an opportunity to go deep with the ball, he is going to. And it's gotten him in trouble sometimes, yes, but it's also the reason he's throwing for so many yards, because when his receivers do come down with that ball, those are big-time plays. I can't tell you how many quarterbacks I've played against that are scared to throw the ball downfield and get sacks, check down, and then they're 2 and out or 4 and out, and they're just not able to move the ball down the field. So it's this happy medium right now that Coach Milanovic and Bo have to get at, where it's like, hey, we do want you to take those chances to get those touchdowns, but also let's dial it back a little bit. And if there is something open a little bit lower, let's get it. But that's been Bo, and that's the reason he's good, and that's the reason that, he makes people frustrated, made Calgary frustrated, and now we're seeing it with the Cats. But also the other reason he throws so many passing yards and touchdowns. So it's double-edged sword.
I'd like to see more corner routes instead of down the middle.
Then he's only got one person to deal with.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
And
right.
we could see Talia Tungavailoa in uniform, Tua's brother, and I've been at a few practices, and he's made some big plays, and he's fast, and I highly doubt he'll get into game action on Friday, but we'll see how this season plays out. It would be good to see him on the field and see what he can do, and he's been a patient guy on the practice roster waiting for an opportunity, so we should at least see him in uniform on the sidelines for the Tiger Cats. Greg Bell was that guy on the practice roster for a while, and he put up almost 200 combined yards. Luke, I laughed when you talked about his catch on that deep ball, because I hear it all the time in the booth. Luke's like Wayne Gretzky. Everything was easy, and why can't these guys do this?
There is something bizarre to every running back, because a deep ball over the shoulder is just not their normal perspective on the football, and I don't know why they always stumble out of a deep ball catch. It's bizarre. But to be fair to Greg Bell, he kept his feet. He would probably have scored, and I understand. Tarnowski was sort of trying to get in position on what was going to be a very challenging block to make, and whatever. That's the way it goes. But
I asked him. This is a joke, by the way. I asked him, and he's like, I had extra long studs in. I tripped on the turf. The long studs in.
Yes.
Well, I think you guys all know I'm a huge James Butler fan, and he was on the one-game injured list. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But, wow, Hitch, the way Greg Bell played, he's got to be considered for staying in the lineup. He was pretty impactful.
He was should be player of the week with what he did on catching the ball out of the backfield and making some plays. But we did hear Milanovic after the game, said that he did play great, but I'm sure he made a lot of mistakes on film when he watches it too as well. But he made that point. But Butler is a fantastic running back, and he's so good out of the backfield too as well. He makes some great catches, and they've relied on him a lot this year. And he's if he's coming back, if he's ready to go, I think you got to go with him. He's that guy that's been there, understands it, and he's a bit of a guy that you lean on in the huddle for when things are going wrong as well.
Yeah, and Hitch, you even said it earlier, where James Butler's pass protection is what separates him from a lot of running backs in the league. So that's another addition for him. And the film's never as good or as bad as you thought.
Yeah.
The rushing touchdown, Greg Bell had a receiving and a rushing touchdown for his first 2 touchdowns in the CFL. That rushing touchdown was the 4th this season for the Tiger Cats. To put that into perspective, Edmonton had 4 rushing touchdowns last game. So they'd like to be a little closer to that goal line, run a few more in, I'm sure. Let's talk Shemar Bridges. It's been a while since we've talked about Shemar Bridges. I think a week. Last time on Ticats This Week was the last time we talked about him. But he continues to produce, and he's moved up to 4th in CFL receiving yards, about 30 yards out of 2nd place. He's a rookie, and he's on pace to shatter the rookie receptions in a season. He leads the CFL with 64. Darrell Walker in 2015 has the record with 89. So that's about 4. If he gets 4 receptions in each of the final 8 games, he's going to destroy the record. And we've talked about number 17 and Luke wearing number 17. What did you think of Shemar in the last game? He just seems to be consistent. He didn't have much early on, but he finished really strong.
Yeah, that's right. And he's had some games like that where, I mean, now the total of his stats, he's got a lot of catches, he's got good yards, and he's moving up there on the list. But we've seen him be quiet for 2 consecutive quarters, and that's the thing. We had a coach, he called a guy like that, and sometimes it is the outside guys in the CFL. It's guys like me when I was mostly in the slot, like, you're going to get targeted, like, 3 times a quarter at least. You're going to, most drives, you have something coming your way. And so you kind of are able to stay in it. And those outside guys, we had a coach call it, you got to be a microwave, meaning you got to heat up fast, and you got to be like ready to go. All of a sudden you're off, and all of a sudden now it's you're on full go. And Shemar Bridges, I just think he does not look like a rookie the way that he is, his physicality at the catch, his hand and ball skills, and just I continue to say it, but the way that he understands where he is on the field spatially and knows where the first downs are, is making the right move after catching the ball, because you can make wrong moves. There's a real balance between catching the ball and giving up some ground to try to break a tackle so that you can get past the first down. I would rarely do that as a player. I was catching the ball and trying to get vertical immediately, and I was able to do it very quickly. My catch and get vertical was quicker than a lot of guys. And if I ever was going to give up ground to avoid a tackle, like, you had to be sure of it, because it's the worst thing when you have the first down gained, or you can get it just by lowering your pads, and you give up that opportunity to try to get more. You better be really sure. And I like how Shemar Bridges makes those decisions, which are split-second decisions. You have no time to make. You're making that decision based off of a feeling as the ball approaches you. You don't really, you can't scan the field, like you're blind to all the people around you for the most part, and he just has a knack about it that does not strike you as a rookie, and it strikes you as being very familiar with the CFL field and with the defenses, and he just makes good decisions. And I also would say, I think we saw some drops, early in the season. In Calgary comes to mind, a deep ball, and I think he's had sure hands as the season's progressed, and it makes quarterbacks comfortable.
Hitch, I know you and Luke talked in the postgame about how Edmonton, they hit hard, and there was a play with Shemar Bridges, and I can't remember who the Edmonton player was. He definitely couldn't see him, but sensed him, caught the ball, immediately did a quick spin and avoided the hard contact. Are a lot of receivers able to do that, or are there some special guys who just sense when that hit's coming?
Well, when I played against guys, I mean, there's a ton of them that they didn't care if they got hit. They were making the catch first, and then they were getting upfield. But it was for what I love about Bridges. First, if I can just mention it, he's making some key catches at opportunistic times. Like, he's later in the game, he made some great catches and knew where the first yard marker was just to get that first down. But for sure. I mean, I played with phenomenal receivers over my career, and those guys, they wouldn't really care, honest to God. They were just going to make that catch. Like, you see the inside slots, like Luke said, making that catch and turning upfield and not giving any ground to lose the first down, and knowing where those sticks are. Those are players that are aware of their surroundings on the field and know where they have to be. And it's frustrating for defensive guys because they're making that quick little move, especially me coming downhill so quickly, or maybe not so quickly, but hard coming downhill, and knowing that they're going to get hit. And if they just make a slight little move, I'm still going to get a piece of him, and he's probably going to move a little bit. But at the same time, it got a little frustrating on some of those guys. But it was a lot of fun.
Important stretch for the Tiger Cats. A bit of a rivalry game when they play Winnipeg after the 2021 Grey Cup. So close at Tim Hortons Field. But after Winnipeg, it's the Labor Day Classic against the Argos, then Ottawa, then another game against Toronto. So these 4 games are a very important stretch for the Tiger Cats if they hope to make the playoffs. Do you think playoffs are on the line here, Mike, over these next 4 games? Absolutely,
Especially the East Division games, right? You want to get back on track with Winnipeg, get a little bit of confidence going into those 3. But I'm going to look specifically at those Toronto games. If if you drop both of those, I mean, it's, you're as good as done, because that's the team you're going to catch. And right now, Toronto is sputtering along, right? And you can see that they're struggling. So those are the games you need to win. And I mean, what better time than Labor Day to get yourself back on track? But this Winnipeg team's going to be quite the test coming in, because it seems like now they're gaining a little bit of ground. And the Rourke thing, it was tough for any new any quarterback to come in week one and go. So, but the biggest surprise that I saw was how well Winnipeg's D-line was playing in that game. They were getting to him very, very quickly, and that just seems like a Winnipeg D-line of old with the Willie Jefferson and stuff like that. So quite the test coming up here for this Ticats offense, because, if Bo's going to drop back as many times as he has in these first games down the stretch and, throwing 30, 35 times a game, there's going to be some opportunities for that D-line to make some big plays. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough one for the Ticats going up against Winnipeg.
Yeah, and if things go ahead, Luke. I was just going to say, if things don't go well in Winnipeg, that can be tough with the crowd as well.
It can be tough, and one of the something that's gone relatively unnoticed. I think we've had the quarterback controversy this year that we were unfortunately used to for a lot of the last years in Hamilton. The turnover ratio and the penalties we've talked about, you have to talk about. It's the ongoing issues. But for most of the games this year, the offensive line has been way better than average. I mean, they're playing at a very high level often. The one thing you could maybe say is the penalties. I can't remember how we fared after this last week going into this past game, RJ. It was the least sacks allowed of any offensive team, and we're throwing the ball more than any other team. So you have the most opportunities of a quarterback dropping back into the pocket, and they're allowing the least sacks. They've been outstanding in many cases. And like I said, there has been a handful of penalties. Sometimes a few times we've gotten those 15-yarders from the offensive line group. But this will be a real test because, like you pointed out, Mike, you've got the Winnipeg rush. The Ticat fans know in the recent history with Winnipeg and how that D line has done against the Ticats. It's been a solid crew for the last few seasons, and this will be a test for an offensive line that has had up through this point a pretty impressive year.
I was watching that Winnipeg game against BC, and I thought, oh, this is good for the Tiger Cats. A short week for Winnipeg. They were playing the Sunday game. Tiger Cats played the Saturday game, but then, okay, so Winnipeg flies back. They probably took Monday off, practiced Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tiger Cats, they took Sunday off, practiced Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then they have to fly to Winnipeg on Thursday. So I don't know. Is there any advantage there at all, Mike?
Yeah, I don't really think so. And when it's, a day in between the games, when it's the Saturday and Sunday games, I mean, it's really might just be one less day off, or like you said, RJ, an extra travel day. But traveling out to Winnipeg and playing there is not an easy task because, like you had mentioned, when you get there, that crowd, that stadium, it's loud and they get, under your skin. It seems like they're sitting on the bench for how close they are to the field. And I feel like it's the same people that probably since Hitch played that are going to be right behind the bench saying all the same things, right? And it's a tough place to play. And if the Ticats turn the ball over, maybe first drive, second drive, whatever it is, it's going to be like crawling out of a ditch. And so that one game difference, RJ, I don't think so. I don't think that makes a big difference, especially because the Ticats now, new DC, have those injuries we talked about and a few changes on the roster coming up. It's going to be some soul searching for them this week to then go out there and battle against Winnipeg.
Luke, Ticats have allowed the fewest sacks, so they're still the best in that category. Hitch, I'm curious if Winnipeg's defense would talk maybe amongst themselves, amongst the players, about the Tiger Cats turning the ball over on their first possession 4 straight games. Do you think they would you talk about that when you were playing? Hey guys, let's go after it here.
Not really. We don't really think about that stuff. I think when you look at, if you're really looking and breaking down the film, I mean, it was a great play. It was an awkward hit, and that one came out. So you're not really looking at, you're knowing that they're turning it over. I'm sure the coaches are going to say something. It'll probably be on one of the scouting reports that they've done that. They'll definitely be aware of it, but they might even try to get a strip on it. Like I don't know. We didn't really do that, but I think if guys would, if they really wanted to, they'll try to go get that to try to do it again. But I guarantee you, it's on their scouting reports.
Well,
100%.
they listened to Ticats this week, so it's definitely on their wall and on their reports now. In fact, we maybe just told them about it. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, David, we'll get David Butko can edit that out.
We'll send it right to O'Shea.
There you go.
I actually had a compliment from Morley Scott, the play-by-play guy for the Elks. He said, hey, Ticats are the easiest team for a play-by-play guy to prepare for because of the great content you guys do on the Ticats audio network. He said, I know everything about the Ticats. So people are watching around the league. We're helping other teams broadcast. So, you're welcome. Luke, are we going to call this a must-win against Winnipeg? Because I've got some numbers.
Well, why don't you share some mathematics with me? Because that's what matters the most. But but it's got to be. I mean, man, oh man, I've never this early in a season has it been such a dire situation to start turning things around. So, RJ. Why don't you share some percentages here? Like, I'm excited to hear what you say.
Okay, so we're not going to talk about the east to west crossover that I think Steve Milton predicted would happen in week 2 or something. It was really early.
Yeah.
So the Argos have 5 wins. They're the closest to the Tiger Cats. They have 9 games remaining. Chad Kelly's back, keep in mind, and that probably will help the Argos. But let's say in those 9 games they go 3-6, which isn't great. That's not a great record, but that would get them to 8 wins. That would mean the Tiger Cats in their final 8 games would have to go 6-2, including 1 win against the Argos. They've already beaten them once. They play them 2 more times. If they beat them 1 more time, they'll win the season series. So if the Argos went 3-6 and the Ticats went 6-2 in their final 8 games, Tiger Cats are in. How do you feel about the must-win in Winnipeg now?
Not a must-win, then. We still have.
We
can give up 2.
To play with.
We can give up 2 there, and
that's assuming Argos win only 3 of 9 games remaining.
That's right. But you never know, and I don't. We'll see what Chad Kelly's situation will be because who knows what that team's going to be like when they come here for Labor Day and how that's gonna progress. So it's just an amazing league. It's wild. It's wild that the Ticats can be in this situation and still have life, but they do. So here we go.
We said it on on our post game last week. Playoffs, yeah, they're still there, but they can't be thinking about that right now. And guys, this as good as anybody. They got to go and they got to get ready for the kickoff in Winnipeg and just take it a play series, quarter at a time, and just see where it goes and get that momentum going, get that feeling of winning again, get that locker room. There's nothing better, guys. And I got on my arm. There's nothing better when you go on the road and get a win when you need it. And I think it's a must-need win. And when you get that, believe it does wonders to guys' heads and mentally because you get back home and it's Labor Day. It's going to be jammed. It's going to be gorgeous weather. Hopefully, you're going to have it's just something as a player that if you get that momentum going, it just goes so much forward and helps you guys so much.
Well,
that.
And Hitch, you I think you said it on the post game last where it's playing for your jobs a little bit too, right? It's making sure that you're putting good film out there. But we were so trained every single season. It really didn't matter what the record was, Hitch, to drive home your point. It's week by week, it's play by play, and you're really just focused on what you're doing next. And you're right, Hitch. It's what happened last week? Okay, we lost. All right, world's burning, right? And then the next week, you got to win. Oh, we're on top of the world. It doesn't matter what the record is. Mm-hmm. It's really a week-to-week thing. So, yes, right now for the Ticats players, the world is burning because of everything that happened. But Hitch, you're right. You go into Winnipeg, you win. They walk out of there, and it's like, hey, look at us go. You know what I mean? So
New life.
Yeah,
new
it's
life.
week by week in this league for sure for the players.
So, Mike, you were the alumnus of distinction last week. So Hitch did the pre, half, and post. Who's doing pre-game, halftime, and post-game on Friday?
Well, I think all four of us are going to be doing it now. It seems like it's a team effort. So we'll bring Hitch in, we'll bring Morielli, we'll bring everybody. That's a part of it. Sim can come join, Court, whoever wants to come can come do it. So I'll see you there early, RJ.
Yeah. How was the honor, by the way, Mike? How was that, bringing the family out on the field?
It was cool. Yeah, it was really cool. It was when I was playing my last year, the kids were, I believe my oldest, my son, was 3 years old. So I don't know if he'd remember all that much when I'd bring him out to games or practices. But I'll definitely know he'll remember this because he was eating it up more than I was, waving at the crowd and having a good time. So all of that makes it worth it, right? It's good to get back, and we're around because of the audio network and get to say hi to fans all the time. So honestly, RJ, it was a lot of fun because I could bring the family and get them involved. And yeah, I enjoyed every moment of it. Had a bunch of people out there, and you know, whatever happened on the field didn't really matter because I was just on cloud nine with the family. So I enjoyed it, and I appreciate Hitch stepping in for me and doing a great job. Like I said to Hitch as we were doing the halftime, I was like, hey man, I'm just glad I don't have to talk to Coach Milanovic after this game. So good luck. Left it at that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Classic.
Yeah, that's not the most fun. Hopefully, on Friday, we get to talk to Coach Milanovic about a big win in Winnipeg. It's an 8:30 kickoff, pregame show at 7:30 on Ticats Audio Network, ticats.ca/listen. And, of course, the kickoff, Luke and me will have the call at 8:30. Big one in Winnipeg. Tiger Cats, Blue Bombers, Friday, 8:30 kickoff. Rob Hitchcock, Mike Daly, Luke Tasker. I'm RJ Broadhead. Thanks for this show, guys. A lot of great insight with a ton of stuff happening around the Tiger Cats right now. And thank you for listening and watching to Ticats This Week.
This has been the Ticats This Week, built by Turkstra. Whatever your next home project is, build it better with Turkstra. Visit TurkstraLumber.com today. Like and follow the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast content. And get a deeper understanding of your Hamilton Tiger Cats.